times.
So that's the new card.
Yeah, I'm not gonna highlight this. It's cool, it's interesting to be able to, I think the only vehicle. Or they don't allow. Colors on. I was thinking that. Red lights.
More if I could go.
We didn't go with it. We did the, not gonna bridge.
Make a noise.
And the paved and closed. And made it one river and.
Yeah. That's just me. Flag calls me. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call, please.
Mayor Beelauer,
Here.
Councilmembers Robertson,
Here.
Vogel,
Here.
Ludwig, here.
All right. So entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Do we have any motion? So. Moved by Councilmember Vogel. Do we have a second?
I'll second there.
Second by Councilmember Robinson. All in favor? Carries. I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Udvig. Any discussion?
I'd like to just talk briefly about C.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a lawyer question or not, I'm just curious, when an engineer screws up and doesn't include something, there's no, in the contract with their engineers, there's nothing. I mean, if an engineer misses something on a project like that, there's no recourse.
At that point, the change order does come back to the council, and whether or not it wasn't included as part of what was previously approved, and therefore it comes back to the council to see if you'd like to proceed with the change order. That's why it's the change order process.
But it says specifically in there, the engineer missed this.
That's up to you if you want to argue. Basically, telling you.
Do we have any recourse as a city when an engineer misses something? I'm not expecting necessarily even them to cover 100% of it. I mean, there's just, when we have a contract with engineers, it's just, oh, it's missed, we're bad and here's the bill, or is it, you gotta cover some of the costs of this?
Again, that would probably be a negotiated process, or it could potentially be a litigated process.
Have we attempted any negotiation or discussion about that?
Mayor and council, up until this point, we have not. We know they vetted the costs through. But we have not challenged that as of yet.
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that at least we should try and negotiate something, but I just don't think that. We hire somebody to do a job and they make a mistake. People make mistakes. It's not like it's the end of the world, but. That they get off scot-free without sharing some of the costs, that kind of bothers me. So I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but.
I'm with you on that one. I think it's a question. I think that a lot of this stuff bothers me too. We see things like this when it comes through. That's one of the things why we watch them, why they have the process, so that when it comes to us, we do want to challenge it. I don't know where we'll get with it or whether or not it's worth the where it goes from here. How we've ever challenged one in my history before when I sat in the audience. I don't know if I've ever seen one challenged, so I couldn't tell you that. If I've ever seen one challenged, regardless, I know it has to get done. If we did challenge it, would have hold up the process, I guess, of the finishing of the project,
So mayor and council, as of
which isn't fair either. But
now, I believe that they've had to order it. Right? They can't move forward with our building without it. So it has been ordered. If we're challenging it or challenging a portion of it, that would be something we'd be negotiating, but they've had to purchase it for us to even move forward. So.
I mean, I think it's my belief, we can continue on, swallowing the cost of the moment, but I still think it's something we should approach them with. Talk about, I don't know contractually if there's anything range with the engineers who miss something like that, is there anything contractually in there that they're responsible for shared cost or anything?
We can certainly look at that, if that's the direction of council.
That's, I think we should look at it, I think in the meantime, we pay for it and go back after them after the fact, I think at this point, yeah, we gotta just keep moving ahead with it. I think it's worth looking at.
What's your recommendation on that, Dave, as far as how to proceed if you were gonna challenge it?
If you want to continue moving on, you can direct staff to bring the issue up, as a negotiation. Council does want to hold this item for 2 weeks. You would have the option of doing that, but that potentially may delay this.
Kevin?
On a side note, are you involved then from a legal standpoint, so the meter will be running for your time? And Kate's time for sure, and she's already on payroll, but your time would be involved as well for something like this, or is it all on Kate?
Mayor and council, we would be dependent on BGS for review of the, and this would fall on our Brunton contract, so it would be a review of the Brunton contract.
I don't have a problem looking into it, I mean, 2 weeks later, I mean, there's always housekeeping when the job is done and things are finally settled out and whatnot. But no, I think it's a good catch, when it can be looked at.
So I guess my question for Dave would be, if we approve it now, then we're done with it basically.
It would be approved,
Okay,
whether there would be some type of offset or look back or anything like that, again, would be something that we would raise and potentially negotiate.
okay. I mean, are we in better standing if we wait 2 weeks? Which I don't wanna delay the project either, but I'm just curious as to legally what's a better stance to have? Or does it matter
I have to defer to Kate just in terms of the project timing of things.
really? Right.
Mayor, I think if we, again, they've had to move forward and acquire it. So whether we approve to pay it or we work the next 2 weeks to look at negotiating, the pieces have been ordered. So I don't know that the 2 weeks is going to stop the project. But that's,
Yeah,
Even your experience, when it says, like, point blank, like Mark said, it was left out by the engineer, or overlooked by the engineer, in your, history, what you've seen something like that, when they've actually said, yeah, well, dark guy, and we missed it.
I would say that's pretty open, and again, it's a negotiation.
Right,
So I can't predict the outcome of that and whether or not they're gonna say, oh yeah, it was completely our bad on that, or, you know, move this along, work out some type of accounting for it.
sure. Typically in construction, change orders are the way some money is to be made, and if somebody, the contractor comes in at at a certain margin. I was with a mechanical company, mechanical contractor for 21 years, so I know what banter goes on behind the closed doors, so. And not that they're gonna make a killing on this stuff, but I think it's worth taking a peek at and talking about it. Especially when they've actually said, oops, we overlooked it. We hired these people in good standing and good manner to be our eyes and ears and do this job properly, and here we have a hiccup, and they should share in the cause and the cure.
And council can certainly direct that to us, and we can certainly pursue that.
I had a conversation with Kate about this earlier too, kind of where to go with this and whatnot, but. Again, either way, it's gotta get done, I don't know how you accept a bid that doesn't have the safety measures in it, which, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, it sounds like, after our conversation, I think it's not as simple as, well, we just missed it, there's more to do with it, I think, with more people involved than just one person saying, I made a mistake. But I have no problem looking into it, I guess my question, again, which, I don't know if we just want to circle Dave, but if we approve it, if we approve it now to assure the project moves on, we obviously accept the change order then. we may or may not have recourse, but would it be better to wait the 2 weeks? But I don't even wanna hold the project back 2 weeks, to be honest with you. I think either way it needs to be done. I would like them to share in the cost, especially given that it's possible, but I guess I don't know what the. Is everything gonna stop for 2 weeks? Because, I mean, they ordered the parts, so they have to put it in or whatever too, you'd think, but I don't.
Mayor and Council, that, it really is a direct question to them, if that holds up any of the mechanical. It's not that there aren't other subs that will continue to work,
Right.
so. I don't have a definitive answer if this would be an impact on those 2 weeks, without going to them first, but. There are other pieces of this building that are moving forward without this, so
Okay.
it's not gonna put the whole project to a stop.
So your stance, Kevin, is to wait 2 weeks?
I would say, nobody's gonna be out anything, it's just an approval, it still has to be done, you can't use a certificate of occupancy without the safety measures in place. The product's gotta be purchased and installed before anybody can have the building, so I think it's worthwhile. And we're not hurting anyone's feelings or anything, we're allowed to inquire. It's
Right.
been pretty flawless up to this point, this is probably one of the bigger ones that Mark brought up, I shouldn't say bigger ones, one of the major ones, anyway. I mean, the other stuff that we let, go or approve, you know, I've looked at them, some didn't raise any flags, but this is the flag raising. So I don't think anybody's gonna be offended or anything, it's all part of business. And I'm sure probably Vernon, probably within the first week of, after tonight.
I'm fine with what Kevin suggested. I just think it's worth talking to them about. I'm not talking about litigation, I'm just saying that I think it's worth it. I'm not upset with the contractor. This stuff happens. It's business. Mistakes happen. So it's not like I'm upset about it. It's just, I think you gotta share the cost.
I'm annoyed with this.
Sarah?
No, I agree, that's what I'm doing.
All right, so, I guess we will, very big motion, so we should amend the motion. Do we have a motion amendment to accept all but C on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion to amend by Councilmember Rodriguez. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Vogel. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and item C, we will motion to continue.
Motion to continue for 2 weeks, directing staff to, go back to the contractor for an explanation and, convey the council's position.
What date is that? We have a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mr.
Motion
Mayor.
by Councilmember Rodriguez. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Meeting open to the public. You can absolutely nobody in the audience. Probably move on here. New business, adjust the tax levy for bond indebtedness, resolution 2024-32, adjusting the debt service tax levy for bond indebtedness.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight, the first item is to adjust the tax levy for the bond indebtedness. Whenever we sell a bond that has a tax levy attached to it, it authorizes us to do a levy that is sent to the county then lets us know what's on the books, and we can adjust that based on the cash flow and stuff. So we are adjusting them down, the capital improvements of 2017, it's being adjusted down because we transfer money in from the water and sewer. We've been doing that, that's for the police public works building. We've been doing that since the bond was sold. And then the 2015 May, we have enough money to make the final bond payment next year that we need to make. And then 23, I just went through the cash flow and it looks like we're gonna be fine over the next 25 years on that for our new building. So if you have any questions, I certainly can try and answer them.
Martin?
Got no question.
Sarah?
I have a question.
Kevin?
So this is a good thing, it's like some consolidation for those who don't know me. The capital improvement, the original, this is our building payment, our mortgage, so to speak, so 828 is now down to 790 is what.
And we'll just be watching it over the next, like I said, 24 years, making sure that the cash flow, if all of a sudden we are not collecting enough in taxes, like if we had a lot of delinquent taxes, we'd have to probably cover it.
This is like a housekeeping measure where it's not coincidence that we have to discuss the levy as well tonight, but this is housekeeping, you've been kind of seeing this come, and now you can actually verify it and you can present it.
And when the bond does it, they go up and down every year, and so the city is always trying to kind of equalize it over the life of the bond, instead of having this, okay, all of a sudden this year it's $50,000 higher, and this year it's 25,000 low. We try and equalize that, and the bond doesn't do that when they sell them.
That's all I have, thank you.
Then we will entertain a motion to, approve resolution 2024-32, adjusting the debt service tax levy for the bond indemnities. We have, motion by Councilmember Vogel, we have a second.
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Item B, preliminary approval of proposed 2025 tax levy and setting the budget public hearing date. Resolution 2024-33, preliminary approval of proposed 2025 tax levy and setting budget public hearing date.
Mayor and council, before you is the preliminary levy, which we have to set every year by September 30th, and, once it's set, I will take and forward it to the county and to the state. The overall levy is going up by $586,805 right now, and we've had a couple of work sessions on this, so, which is a 10.48% increase in the levy. Now the tax rate is different, that's all based on everything. It covers the general operating and capital equipment, parks, building improvements, and street improvements. In the work session, I will tell you, and I explained it in here, when I was doing the calculation of somebody's taxes from 24 to 25, I mistakenly took the new market value exclusion and put it to 24. And so right now, the increase in the taxes is going to be less than what I said in the work session, because they have less of an exclusion in 24. So a median valued home based on these figures right now, and there's some estimate, there's still some real preliminary numbers in there. Median valued home is $284,701, and if everything stays this way, they would see an increase of $48.91 between the taxes
For the year.
for the year.
And
The
that's just,
city taxes.
that's just the city's portion,
City
not the
tax.
school.
Deal with city taxes. So, this resolution also sets the public hearing, which is Monday, December 2nd at this building. So I did discuss with Kate today that we kind of had the conversation at one point was, hey, would we be able to have the first meeting over in the new city hall? And we are setting that, we are having it here, so that first meeting has to be here. So, if you have any questions, I certainly can try and answer them.
Sarah?
I do not have any questions. We went over this extensively in 2 work sessions.
Kevin?
Do you have any idea or any forecast what Newton County is gonna be after, and any other of the other hands that are out, and when we get a tax statement, do you know where they're gonna be?
I know Kate had said something about, she had heard, did you hear what Anoka County was?
So Mayor and Council, Anoka County is struggling for 2025, and their preliminary numbers, we're looking at up to a 25%. However, they are with the new administrator working to get that closer to 15%. In a meeting a couple weeks ago with all the cities in county, a lot of cities are in double digits. There's a handful that are lower, but it is impacting every level as far as increase.
There's multiple years that I know, some county members, board members were talking about a 0% increase, which leads to things like this too, unfortunately.
I also want to note, at least for the public state, that there's some, place markers, as they call them, for cost of living increases, which we're dealing with some, salaries and wages that are gonna be still discussed yet before the year is over. So Darcy and Kate have put some markers in there about what they anticipate wages will be, and it's gonna be in, everybody's dealing with it. I mean, there's no escaping it, but Darcy, if we did away with, parks entirely, my first, several weeks back, my first inclination was to say, can we borrow from our reserve? Well, then Darcy said, pay the piper now or pay the piper later. So, that doesn't, doesn't seem like a good idea. If we did away with parks this year alone, it'd be like almost 40% of our increase of 500-some thousand. What were, I guess, Kate, what we're gonna do with the 200,000, we can refresh us in the public? And then with the 200,000, if we just put that on pause for this year, would it make any difference whatsoever? Or how much difference would it make?
So Mayor and Council, Parks is one of the set asides that for years wasn't being included in our annual budget, which has left us with grasslands that were never developed. It has left us with parks that can't be replaced when equipment fails. It has left us kind of struggling with even creating or getting to develop the parks that we have for plan for. When a development comes in, they have to either provide us with parkland or cash in lieu. So we have developments where we've accepted in the past the land. And we've never developed those pieces of land because we haven't set aside anything on an annual structure. For years, we have set aside a very small amount for maintenance, for replacing a swing, or, trying to clean graffiti or a board here and there. But what this 200,000, after we did the full park plan and we got the input from the community, we kind of went through all of our parks and did an assessment of maintenance needs, replacement years, and just the full, what's existing that we need to pay for is what created the CIP as far as what types of funds are needed. We're well below what we actually need. But the 200,000 helps us to slowly build up what for the last 10, 30, 50 years was just never set aside to maintain what we have. So it's much like our roads where we're kind of stuck in that middle where it wasn't we were building parks with the new developments, but we weren't doing anything that in 20 years we have to replace that play structure. And much like Skyway Park, that play structure was $115,000 play structure. So this 200,000 just allows us to gain momentum on putting funds aside to maintain what we have. And then hopefully in the future, when we have all the land that we can't sell, once we take it as park dedication, that land is park. We're stuck with it. One way or another, we have to do something with it, whether it be mow it, whether it be build a park. And as the community grows out, those small areas will probably be very valuable. But right now, we have a few that have nothing. So that is just our slow growth on that. If we choose to cut that completely, that will impact that growth, right? Then we are doing much like we have where we're kind of just delaying that. So, there's that decision. Does it need to be where it's at, or does it, can we accept less? But to put it at 0, we're putting ourselves right in the same bucket next year. And in 5 years and 10 years where we've got failing equipment that we're literally, we can't replace.
If we had some development, and I was pro park, and I still am, 2.5 years ago, we started talking about this stuff, and we had some ARPA money, we were gonna set aside, we've done some things. But, I'm just trying to think what is low hanging fruit that would, if the family in St. Francis right now doesn't want their taxes to go $55 a year, what would they want to give up? We can't do anything about our payroll. Payroll is what it is. We have to stay competitive. We have to have professional people doing professional work. We have to have first responders. We have to have equipment for first responders. There's nothing that we can give up that I can see as you look down the road. You sat down with all department heads and you said, guys and gals, what do we got here in front of us? What do you need? What can you get by with? I mean, every year it's the same thing. They look at the bare essentials that they need and whatnot. But again, to even go up just a little, when Anoka County is gonna go up 15% as well. I try to think of the citizens that live here and go, what can we do? And it's not a gesture, it's an actual action is what I'm not after a gesture, whether it's up for election or not, it wouldn't make any darn bit of difference to me, but. What would, and so without 200,000 in the park fund, we have no other. Improvement money set aside for parks whatsoever, we have a park commission, but we have no money in the budget for parks at that point
Just what you levied this year.
this year.
And park dedication funds, any money that we have in there is very regulated on, it has to be new equipment,
Right.
it can't go and replace old equipment. And things like that, so. Yeah, you don't have, and there's not a lot of funding sources, like you can't sell. If I remember right, any bonds to fund
Right,
parks. There is no funding mechanism for it.
yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think as a citizen, would think, what can I do without the next year if you don't tap my taxes further?
Well, one thing first of all, I appreciate everything you said, Kevin, like, very well said. Just something to, however many people are watching too, now is the time that what Kevin asked for was some input from you as to.
More than 85 people,
Right,
the surveys are not bustling.
what are you willing to give up in order to keep your taxes down? Because we're here to represent you, therefore. It's up to you to communicate with us as well, and do your part as to. Whatever we set tonight is not set in stone, we can always go lower, but we cannot go higher. There are things that you can do to move it around, if there's something that you do wanna do and you wanna speak out, now is the time to do it, whether it's emailing me or any of the council members. Calling us, you know, I just wanna get that out there, so.
Mr. Mayor. I did take that $200,000 out of there. And that same median value home, they'd see about a decrease of about $10 a year.
Right.
And then just understand that if you take it out, you're gonna have a harder time putting it back in. And if levy limits, we haven't heard this term for a long time. I remember from years ago, if they all of a sudden would put levy limits on us next year, then you wouldn't have that. You would not.
We're at the mercy of development, which we don't have anything happening right now because of interest rates and whatnot, and the election year, so next year could be a whole different story, and we, in the past year, we haven't gotten spend crazy, and again, I talked to somebody again the other day, they asked about City Hall, and I said, I still stand behind it, I said, we really vetted the costs and stuff thoroughly before we did it. We looked at what's here in the buildings that we have, the assets that we do have, we might sell after the fact. But, again, we're between a rock and a hard spot as far as, there's no other movement, and even parks might not be a movement either, but. I looked at the thing from several different angles, and there's nothing that we can do without. Again, people move here because they want roads and bridges, and the first responders do their job, and we have some assets here that a lot of cities are fortunate enough to have. We have a liquor store that produces revenue for us as well. But, it's a quandary, and I guess, I'd rather hear what other council members have to say. I mean, we need another work session. I don't mind if we don't approve this tonight. We wait till our last meeting. And then we can sneak something in a work session or talk about it any further. I mean, we've already gone to the experts that we have on staff and said, what can we do? And you're going, this is what it takes to run the car. We have 6 gallons of gas. We got tires that are half worn. This is what we're doing.
Preliminary has to be set when, by when?
By the end of
End of the
September.
month.
But, in the work session, we had discussed it, and brought up that if you wanna wait and have the truth and taxation notices come out to people at this, you could always lower it after
Right.
this December 2nd meeting.
I'll step back and hear what others have to say for a moment.
My concern remains the same. My concern simply is we're keeping everything the way it is, I get that. But we're passing the entire bill on to the taxpayer. Would be inflation, or whatever you wanna call it, that gets us to 10.4% or whatever else in levy increase. we're taking the entire thing and passing it to the taxpayer. Saying, we're not gonna change a thing, we're funding everything we have to fund. We're not gonna take any sacrifices, you, the public, has to take a sacrifice. And I don't think that's right. Because back to what Kevin was just saying about the gas and everything else, yeah, it's going up for the consumer, it's going up for the taxpayer too, but we just took the entire bill. And said, we're gonna keep everything the same here, in St. Francis, we're not gonna cut anything, here's the bill. Who can the taxpayer do? Who's the taxpayer at? They're gonna go to their boss and say, yeah, my tax rate went up 10.4%, I wanna see an increase. I gotta cut back, it should be a shared sacrifice. It should not just be this completely put on the citizen. And, briefly talk about parks, whatever else, I really think that's another whole discussion going into parks, but if you gotta take 100,000 out of parks or something, there has to be, in my opinion, some sort of shared sacrifices on the city's behalf, rather than just saying, we're keeping everything the same. Because if you look at state government or federal government, you hear the same argument all the time. And the argument is, what are we going to cut? We're not gonna cut anything, or we can cut anything, and it just brings it to this big cycle and nothing gets cut.
Really tried to cut the police.
There's smart places to cut it and not cut it, as I've talked about. I think you have to share some of the sacrifice, and I'm not looking for a 0% increase, that's not what I'm looking for. I recognize, I think staff's doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So I'm not upset at anybody on staff or city, because of course, that's exactly what they're supposed to do, is develop a budget based on keeping everything the same. So as far as I'm concerned, the city's doing its job, but you can't just take the entire bill and say, here you go, taxpayer.
Well, and we went through this, I don't know, for me, this is deja vu. I think you understand it, so it's a little different, because we had a different council member that used to always say they want to cut too, and it's the right, I think it's the right mentality to give people the services that are needed at the lowest cost possible. It's the right mentality to have. The problem is when we say, where are we gonna cut, it's attached to services. So do we pave less roads? Do we have less officers to respond? Do we have less firefighters to respond? Or, whatever the case is, and that's where parks, obviously, there's not somebody to respond there. That was one of my worries as to where we're getting into when we got into this building discussion originally, was we're doing a lot, so, bless Steve, but he wanted the city, where he felt was right when he was on his way out, and he had the best intentions. My biggest fear was we're doing a lot at one time, playing catch up, and we've been playing catch up, I think, for a long time, just because it's been a very conservative run town for many years, prior to my serving. And there's certain things that should have been in place, in my opinion, long before, but, Steve actually helped get in place. I think the road program's awesome. Parks, you can argue one way or another, you definitely need building maintenance. And none of these things were funded, so now we're funding them all at once along with the building, so it's kind of a lot at one time. Which, is it good, is it bad, is it needed, is it not needed? And that's where I think regardless of where we go, whether we set this meeting or next meeting, it can always go down, there can be discussions. And that's where I think too, Kevin asking the people, directly is awesome if they respond. And I really hope people see that and do respond, because as a representative of somebody, it's hard to represent somebody when I don't hear you. We get a lot of people that are reactionary, and they complain about the decisions we make, and we want to make the best decision for everybody at large. And just because I think this is a good idea, or I'd like to have this, so I'm willing to pay for it, doesn't mean that somebody else can afford it. And so we try to find those balances. So I think it's one of those things where we have to find that balance as far as, what you're gonna do and what you're not gonna do. Like you said, I think the city's done what the staff has done what their job is, and that's to, maintain things and keep it where it's at. We also have negotiations, with unions and whatnot taking place that could affect things one way or another. We have a lot of things going on, I think, so it's not as cut and dry as, you know, it's, to pass it on to the taxpayers, that's the only, taxpayer funded is the only way government runs, which. I mean, won't get into that. But I mean, all the money comes from the taxpayer for government to run in general. So I mean, we can argue what we want or don't want, and I really hope people reach out to us after this meeting, regardless of, you know, between now and the final, what word I'm looking for? Yeah, the final deadline for the levy to take place. Again, wherever we set it now, we can go down, there can be discussions on that, but again, I'd love to hear from as many people that are watching, that can tell your neighbors, email, whatever. That's the best way to communicate with us.
If
But
I could, and one thing that really bugs me, and I recognize why people say it, but let's just say we went to 9% instead of 10.4%. What I don't like is when government says, oh, we cut. Let's be clear, and it's still.
you just didn't break.
That's correct, it's still a 9% increase, it's not a cut, yes, it's gonna result in some reductions in the city services or whatever you wanna call it, but that is not a cut, you're still seeing an increase of a hypothetical 9%, so it really irritates me when we say it's a cut.
Cutting services, you're making.
You're making reductions, but it's not a cut, you're still seeing a 9% increase in revenue,
Right.
it's not being completely, I don't know what you wanna call it, it's not like you're lying, it's not, but you're not being honest. It's an increase of 9% if that's what it ended up being. So for tonight, I don't mind going ahead with the 10.4 and passing this, but I just would like to see. And I don't know where, and I do think it falls more on council than it does actually on staff. I would like to see us share in the sacrifice. That's what I'm asking for. And you can say it's 100,000 from parks, whatever you wanna pick. We need to share in the sacrifice. I just don't think it's fair to totally turn and pass the bill on. So that's all I got.
You're good. You're very.
Well, I think I'm gonna say is don't touch my parks.
I mean, I understand that, but that is one thing that our community has been screaming for is parks. And we just give it to them, now we're gonna go, oh, we're gonna take it away. You asked for it, now we're gonna take it away. And that doesn't set well with me either. I agree that, you know, it'd be great if we could cut something, but I don't see any, I mean, I wish there was some we could cut. I mean, and we can cut, but that's going to affect our residents and what services we give them. So if they want cuts, tell me where you want it to be cut, but then understand, don't come back to me and be complaining because this didn't go as planned. Because we are going to sacrifice services. Whether it's not having city hall open as much, whether it's cutting staff, whether it's not as many fire, not as many police, we are going to see repercussions of that. And if that's what our residents want, that we can make those cuts, but just please understand that that's not something that we just snap our fingers and we bring it back either. We work long and hard to cut and reduce and find ways that we can do as much as we can. But I'm not sure where we can cut without having a major impact to our residents either.
I agree with you. I'm not, it's not like I'm anti-park or anything. We got it done, in my opinion, it's not done yet, but it's close to being done. We just got done buying a new car, which is this new city hall fire station. And at times of that, if I'm a home person at home, I just wiped up my savings, I've got to make some sacrifices. And it sounds petty, it sounds dumb when you bring it up, but I mean, right now, the city's operating along on one refrigerator. Well, we're buying 4 refrigerators for the new building. It's the small stuff like that adds up. It does. And I don't know, I got to check with Kate yet, but you know, like in the new city hall, there was $8,000 designated as an optional add-on for art. That's the kind of stuff where maybe we got to cut the small stuff. it adds up.
Right, and I don't think the public is gonna go, oh, we don't have enough artwork in our building. I don't, that's something that I agree, that's
That'll be
something.
one.
I mean, Joe
That'll
will,
be
Joe
one guy.
complain that, I mean, well, we'll have all of, everybody can just bring their family pictures and go. That's something, I'm just saying, I mean, we look and we're like, well, if we cut police, if we cut fire, those are gonna be drastic changes that I think are gonna end up hurting our residents. I mean, we've heard over and over, if you're gonna have a heart attack, have it in St. Francis, because they have a good recovery system. So I really don't, and, you know, we've been looking and looking and looking for things that we can give to our residents, because we don't give them a lot. We do put a lot on them. I recognize that, but we did surveys and we did things at the park, and parks is one thing that does really bring families into our community as well as build our community. People are out in the parks more now. So I just think, I mean, it's easy to go, oh, we can cut parks. But it's not that easy. It took us a long time to be able to even get to the point where we had any funds to put in there. And I think taking that away is a disservice to our community. That's, not saying we can't look at it, everything's on the table, always is, but. Gonna go down. Take it in Spanish.
All right. That being said, we'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary approval proposal 2025 tax levy and setting the public hearing date for
December 2nd.
December 2nd. Do we have a motion?
I will make that motion. Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Udvig, do we have a second? I will make that second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-1. And we will move on to item C, CBD moratorium discussion.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is to just have a discussion about your direction or what you would like to see done. Over the past week or so, there has been quite a bit of resident upset on both social media and in person in regards to a specific store and their signage and its location as it relates to our middle school. With that, that is something that I've talked to Dave and our legal team about as well. And at one point, we had talked a little bit about putting a moratorium in with the state. The state actually made more updates to their ordinances in this last legislative session. So we've been kind of stuck between what is approved with low dose and what is coming with the higher dose. And the moratorium concept would allow us to freeze what we have and start working more on getting the ordinances in place. When people apply at the state is actually going to be coming to the city for approvals as far as distance, zoning districts. There's quite a list that I need to sit down with you. We get to, or need to decide what business hours we're going to allow these, much like our bottle shop, or any liquor establishments. There are distance regulations that need to be set. So I was going to ask for a work session in October, but what blew up last week has kind of gotten this pushed forward a little bit more. So what we have is a situation where we can keep going as is. Some of the issue is a couple of the stores, both of our, 2 of the 3 licenses for the low dose currently are most likely not going to qualify for higher dose. However, they're putting extensive funding into building out the stores. They're putting extensive funding into leases, signage, and that's partially their responsibility as a business to do their homework. But also, we really don't have that guidance to give them, to tell them, you know, by the way, it's not going to be more, most likely. So what is on the table is a discussion, what questions may be out there that you've seen, and do we want to look at putting a moratorium in place that would get us to the point where we have these ordinances And the stores we have in place would remain, it doesn't change their business as it is today. It would prevent anybody else coming in and putting that investment that may get altered or rejected in the future. But then allow us also to get our ordinances written that clearly define what our expectations are of these types of uses, where we're allowing them. You know, the county and the schools have already put a full ban on these uses. We are not able to do that, but even down to how many of these types of businesses do we want in our city? So we've got some homework to do as a group. The moratorium would allow us to do that without anything else really building behind us, causing this resident kind of disruption. Or we continue as is and, you know, really let the industry guide itself. And we work on our ordinance at the same time and hope to align with the state. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Before I open it up, I just want to commend staff for trying to get ahead of this many months ago. I was one of the biggest persons, that was kind of rejecting it, thinking that it was a law on top of a law or ordinance on top of a state law. So that's on me, as far as that goes. Shame on me for putting faith in the state to begin with, and shame on me for, not trusting staff a little more on that topic to be ahead of it. I didn't think there was a reason for the moratorium, and a few residents kind of speak against it. I lost a little bit of faith in humanity there by where the location is. I think it's a very poor choice to be located, with the signage and whatnot that's out there, but I did see it blow up, but I just want to take my responsibility for where I stood with that. Staff did try to get ahead of that, so I do appreciate it. That being said, I am in favor of a moratorium for now, so we can get to where we probably should have been months ago. That's where I stand with it. Mark?
Definitely in favor of the moratorium, we have a work session on it. I'm just curious, not that it's have to be built in the same work session, but we have similar restrictions on like business like photography or something like that. What's currently in place? We have similar.
Yep, so Mayor and Council, we do have adult uses ordinance, and then with our liquor, this ordinance will probably be more aligned with the liquor licensing with the distances from specific uses. But we have adult uses, and then we've also got massage, and there's several business, out there to protect these kind of issues from coming up.
I too will own that too. I was also against the moratorium before. Now I see that you guys probably got a little bit of insight than we did, so. We appreciate all your hard work and putting up with us. So I think it's okay to take a step back here and do this moratorium and keep where we're at right now and work through everything. That's a better service to our residents than just letting things go.
Yep.
I'm all for it as well, creating moratorium.
So we have direction now for the work session.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so I will work with Dave and we will, pull that that is an ordinance, so it does require the one vote, at a minimum. And then also to schedule a work session date in October, I've provided 4 dates. On the bottom of the agenda report, if one of those works for the group.
I would prefer to just stick with Mondays or what that's worth, but I'm open to whatever everybody else says.
I'm good with any, well,
28th works for me.
I can, yeah, I'll make it work. It'll be fine.
28th,
Okay.
so work session will be set for the 28th at the community room? Or
Correct. And would you like it at 5:30, 6 o'clock?
There any conflict?
5:30 would be fine.
5:30 is fine, that's October 28th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Here, I have a question for Kate. Kate, do we have a limit on smoke shops? And I mean, we already have 2 Dollar Generals, we have 2 auto parts stores. Do we have, is there any inhibiting anybody from opening another 2 or 3 smoke shops in town that they had a storefront?
So mayor and council with the higher potency, we do have the decision to make as to how many we will allow. By state law, we're required to have 1 under the 12,500. If we open a city or a municipal shop, that does not count as our 1, so then we would have 2, correct? So, we can limit that with our higher potency. And then we have the location restrictions as on top of that as well.
So, just regular smoke shop, aside from CBD or whatever, but tobacco graded smoke shop. We could have
Retail,
one.
isn't it?
So mayor and council, with just a standard smoke shop, we do not have any limits in place.
Is that something we should think about as well down the road? And are we allowed to do that, or do we want to do that?
That is
As a
something-
city.
That is something that you can discuss, and that is something that other cities have set a top limit on number of licenses. And whether or not, when a license expires, whether that total goes down.
Mm.
So that,
If you can't get into 2 places already in town, you shouldn't, you wouldn't need it, but. Maybe we can talk about that in work session as well.
and that is something that the council can discuss, and you can provide information for, we've done it for other cities.
All right, thank you.
Kind of off topic, I was thinking, can you decide like how many pizza joints you want in town? Just curious, because then, well, I'm just wondering, that, I'm not against pizza, by the way, I'm just saying.
Mayor and council, some, the pieces that are really regulated, the alcohol, tobacco, we're capped with our liquor licenses as well, based on state statute. So there are limits that exist for these.
I was thinking that retail would be retail, but tobacco is different.
We don't tobacco licenses.
So you are pro pizza, can I take that out?
Yeah. Oh, my problem's not that. Watching my cards. All right, moving right along. Meeting open to the public, being absolutely nobody in the audience. We'll move on to Dave, Fire Department monthly report.
Mayor and council, for your review is the fire department's monthly report for the month of July. We continue to see a positive response in the response times, even with the change over to the 4020 facility, and certainly we have a positive impact with the Bethel station operating on our behalf as well. Calls remain relatively stable year over year from 67 to 66. We continue to see our average number of firefighters per call go up, which is an encouraging sign. Again, with some new hires coming on board and the addition of Station 2, that certainly has had a positive impact on that capacity. Our fire and EMS runs distribution is almost exact to last year. On our variance piece, a couple things to note, we did see those ambulance over 20s pick up to 5 on the month. And we're seeing that trend continue even into September. We had a pretty busy day today with some extended ambulance response times. And we did have a couple ambulance assists where we send a firefighter with the ambulance down to the hospital to continue treatment, which is usually an indication that we had some higher level acuity calls over the month. In our fire inspection program, we had 6 initial inspections with 4 re-inspections for a total of 10 site visits on the month. And I do just want to take a moment to give a shout out to the police, public works, my staff in the fire department, city administrator or city clerk who stepped in with the city administrator on vacation for last week's multiple storm event. Couldn't be more proud of how well everybody worked together, and the level of service that we're able to provide to this community during those storms. So, just a real great job by my staff and everybody else around us. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mark?
Questions, thanks for a great report, thanks for your hard work, I know you guys were up there cleaning up and helping people, so we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Joe?
Very good report, just check in on the Nowland situation, how's that going, what was the end of the year, looking us in the eye?
So last week we did host second round fire chief interviews. Where we've identified 2 candidates that we're sending out for the leadership assessment at Mark McAllister. Once we get all of that data back, hopefully we'll have a candidate to present to council. And they'll have a decision to make on whether or not they're going to accept their candidate or go a different direction. I assume we're on track right now, but until the decision is made, we're just continuing to follow the process at this point.
Were they outside individuals or were they?
Both are outside candidates from our
Really? That's a part-time position that they're
full time.
Full-time.
The marketplace right now will not support part-time position.
And how many firefighters is not supporting right now?
We're up to 15. We just brought on 5 that are going through the recruit academy at this time. So we had a pretty good hiring class over the summer. That's been awesome.
It's unusual, isn't it?
It's very unusual, but we're starting to see that here too. We've brought on quite a few over the past few months. We're actually interviewing 4 more candidates on Monday next week. So we're certainly getting more interest. The longevity is certainly a different story, but I'm encouraged by what we're seeing right now.
Interesting, very good. Any, Bethel, evaluations going along smoothly and
We continue to move the needle with Bethel. I heard from our consultant today, we're gonna have a community survey that should be teed up and ready to go here in a very short period of time. I'm hoping by the end of the week that we'll be able to start dispersing out the survey, and that'll go to both communities. He's working on some of the job comp stuff right now as well, so hopefully we'll gain some traction there. We're still seem to be tracking on his timeline, so we hope to be having more robust discussions towards the end of the year on how we cement this more long-term in the future.
and when do you think the next meeting be for the joint, mayor, myself, Kate, et cetera?
I don't have a timeline for that right now, but I can check with our consultant tomorrow and.
Just curious.
Yeah, I can certainly put that out there and see what he's thinking.
All right, very good, thank you very much.
You're welcome to.
Well, real quick, I'm just curious, how are you doing the survey for the 2 communities?
So the idea right now is that we're working on is that we create a QR code, but we'd actually get out and try and have person-to-person contact. We've identified the farmer's market as probably a good avenue to do that. I don't know if bottle shop would be another good avenue for that. Maybe partnering with County Market and putting it on receipts or putting it on a billboard at County Market. We certainly have some resources in Bethel that we would like to tap in, whether it's small business owners or other. So yeah, I think based on what we've seen off of some previous surveys, the true value of the survey is the engagement piece, right? So the more engagement we can get with the survey, the better our numbers are going to be, the better direction that we're all going to serve. So we're working on a strategy on how we can actually get it into people's hands and help facilitate the process of getting the survey completed.
Just have a, as we were discussing earlier, I mean, we just have such a poor response with surveys, I'm just.
And it's not just us, it really is everywhere. I think there's a lot more hesitancy with surveys now than there ever has been before. So it's not just a St. Francis problem, but if we're not out there touching and talking to people, I think it's gonna be a challenge. And it still might yet be a challenge.
I have a question here. Yep. Chief, what if, it just come to mind that you see, you know, the poppy sales and the Shriners out here and there, or whatever, Girl Scout cookies. What if we could get some volunteer firefighters and put them on payroll and actually be out front of County Market with a booth and not, we don't ask for any money, we just want your advice.
Yep, we're not opposed to any ideas, so.
I mean, it's a small enough community where I think it'd be received quite well. And again, you've got some really good spokespersons on your staff.
Absolutely.
That might be somewhere, one avenue to pursue.
Yeah, we're, like I said, we're not opposed to any idea for us to really kind of gauge where this needs to go. So none of us are making decisions in a vacuum on what this looks like, is we do need that engagement. Without the engagement, without the data, we're at risk of making a decision that is based on a skewed majority or a skewed minority that may not be the accurate representation of what people truly desire.
And the weather's nice for at least another month or so. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
So once again, in the community, we can only better help serve and represent you if you participate. So please participate. Hopefully people are paying attention, tell your neighbors, anybody that's watching. We'd appreciate that. I don't have any questions, just, kind of stole my thunder there, Dave, but I was gonna thank everybody. I did respond to the email, that was sent out, but, you know, everybody that was involved in helping, staff all the way around. You know, speaking for everybody, I do appreciate you, so, it's pretty crazy, you know, I've seen a lot of trees down by Holly, having to drive by there shortly after it was cleared. Looked pretty crazy. I had a few small trees, but nothing big, so.
It was a busy week for sure.
But, we appreciate all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to council member reports. We'll start with Kevin.
I really have nothing to report since our last, meeting, so,
Did you go work session or something? Didn't we?
no.
Right before the last one? Anyway. Sarah?
I got to attend one with the cop, so that was fun, that was the first time I got to go, so I took my daycare kids and thought that was pretty cool. See, although a couple of them were kind of scary, but then once they said hi to me, then they're, oh. It was well attended from what I could tell. Had a nice day for it. Always nice to see our officers and reserves out there talking with all the kids and parents. Good job.
Mark?
I gotta, sorry, I gotta piggyback on what Dave was saying earlier, because I got caught in some of it. And I was it was very reassuring, fire, police, public works out there. I mean, that's what it's about. I think you guys were out there responding. I do appreciate that. I mean, one other shout out to Connexus Energy, and I'm shocked by the amount of power line damage I saw, and that they got my power back on in 5 hours. I thought I'd be out for at least a day, so good job all around. Only other thing I have is I just want to thank staff for the off-week memo. That to me is something I'd like to see us make more public somehow, because that's information. You know, I always scream about lack of information, transparency. When I see that off-week memo, I go, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for as a citizen. I recognize I'm not a duck who likes that kind of stuff, but I love having that, so thank you.
Well, you're not a big social media person,
No.
right? But, police do share their stuff sometimes from the off-week memo on, the Friday post, I believe it is, so. Just a heads up for that, but it is out there a little bit, but yeah, I mean, the more we can share, the better.
Shannon has a comedic value though.
The more we can share, the better. Again, the more engagement we can get, and again, not engagement to responses on Facebook posts, email, call, whatever you can do to, I mean, if you have anything to say about anything that was said here tonight, whether it be the budget, things you want to cut, appreciation is always welcome. Especially for our staff that works hard out there for you during storms and things of that nature. You know, as much engagement as we can get, but if you're looking to respond to anything that was said here tonight, obviously, direct email from the website, stfrancismn.org. You can find the directory, email us, call us, whatever. We don't answer. You can leave a message. I might not get right back to you right away. 'Cause I know a lot of us do work full time, and then we also do this too. So we will get back to you eventually. And for my report, I guess I don't really have much else other than things we've already talked about. And again, just awesome appreciation for what everybody did during the storm. I heard great things, and great to hear from you too, Mark. So that's awesome to hear what everybody was able to accomplish and work together. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilmember Vogel, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:02.